Jai Hind friends, I'm Dr. Satya Paul, Associate Professor of English, Government National College Sirsa. Friends, we have already read the poem Death Be Not Proud. About its stylistic features, we are to discuss the rhyme scheme in the poem, the poetic devices used in the poem, and the meter of the poem. So let's move forward and study these three very important aspects of John Donne's poem, Death Be Not Proud.
So the stylistic features of the poem Death Be Not Proud. First of all, let's see whether the poem is a Petrarchan sonnet or a Shakespearean sonnet. In a Shakespearean sonnet, the rhyme scheme and the stanza pattern differs from Petrarchan sonnet. In Petrarchan sonnet, there is an octave and a sestet. Octave means first stanza is of 8 lines and next stanza is of 6 lines. While in a Shakespearean sonnet, 3 stanzas are of 4 lines each, 3 quatrains and a couplet. If we look at John Donne's poem Death Be Not Proud, then we see the first stanza is of 8 lines with the rhyme scheme A B B A B B A. Look at these lines and look at the highlighted ending word of each line. The first line ends with the word the, second line with so, third with overthrow. So overthrow and so rhyme together. They are BB, the, and the last word of line number 4, me, they rhyme together. A B B A. Similarly, the next line number 5 ends with B, which is A, delivery. Line number 8 also rhymes together with line number 1 or 4, 5 and 8. These 4 lines rhyme together. So this stanza is of 8 lines, and a sonnet, Death Be Not Proud, as we know it is, the next stanza is of 6 lines. This is an octave, and next stanza is a sestet. So this is the sestet, and exactly after line number 8 there is a full stop. So one idea ends here. For example, you can say in the first 8 lines the question has been raised and the question has been answered in the next 6 lines. You can read the poem from this angle, or if you see the tone of the poet, then the tone also changes at the volta. Volta means the change of idea after line number 8. So the final 6 lines rhyme scheme is C D D C E E. Men see, dwell well DD, then see eternally die EE. So this is a Petrarchan sonnet. Some people read uh, Shakespearean sonnet in this poem also. They believe that this poem is a Shakespearean sonnet because the final 2 lines, line number 13 and 14, they rhyme together like a Shakespearean sonnet. In a Shakespearean sonnet, uh, there are 3 stanzas of 4 lines each. Similarly, there is a full stop here also, but this sonnet is a Petrarchan sonnet because in this sonnet the last 2 lines you cannot exactly separate from the remaining lines. So this is a sonnet, a Petrarchan sonnet, and can be divided into 2 parts, octave and a sestet. If we talk about literary and poetic devices in Death Be Not Proud, then the first thing that comes to our mind is apostrophe, because in this poem, right in the beginning, the poet addresses death straight away. He talks to death, looking in death's eyes. Death, be not proud, though some have called thee mighty and dreadful. This is the first line. So apostrophe means address. Address means the poet addresses something or someone to whom he is talking. The other person may or may not be able to answer. Usually in an apostrophe, it is either a dead or inanimate thing, and is not possible for dead or inanimate thing to answer to the poet. So it is one-way traffic, apostrophe, address, and whenever there is an apostrophe, there is a personification, because the person who is listening has been personified, and is listening to the poet. Apostrophe, death be not proud. So next thing is personification. As I have already discussed, death has been personified here. And alliteration, there is one beautiful example of alliteration in this poem, where the poet says, much more than from thee, much more must flow. Much more must, I have highlighted in red color the initial sounds ma, ma, ma. So this is alliteration in the poem Death Be Not Proud. And enjambment signifies continuity. And one line, if it doesn't end at the end of this line and the idea moves to the next line, then it is called enjambment. While discussing Shakespeare's sonnet Let Me Not to the Marriage of Two Minds, I discussed in detail. You must have in your mind that lecture. So enjambment is from rest and sleep, which but thy pictures be, much pleasure, then from thee much more must flow. So the idea, which begins with from rest and sleep, continues after the end of this line and moves to the next line, much pleasure, then from thee. So this is an example of enjambment. Enjambment is usually found in many of the poems. There is hardly any poem where enjambment has not been used. Anaphora. Anaphora is used for emphasis, and the poet uses a similar word or phrase, especially in the beginning of a line. Repeatedly he uses. You must have seen Keats uses in the poem Odo na Grecian urn, forever, forever, forever. Just like that, John Donne in this poem, he uses and. All the lines, these lines are from the sestet, and they begin with and. Thou art slave to fate, chance, kings, and desperate men. And dost with poison, war, and sickness dwell. And poppy or charms can make us sleep as well, and better than thy stroke, why swellest thou then? So this and is use of and in the beginning of continuous in the repeatedly at the beginning of a line is called anaphora. And irony. Irony is another poetic device used in the last line of the poem, final line of the poem, Death Be Not Proud. There the poet says, Death, thou shalt die. A reader or listener never expects this, that the poet will call death, that, oh death, you will die. So the poet uses irony, very unexpected. Death which kills others. In routine or common parlance, we say it is death who takes us away. And here the poet says, death, you will die. So it is irony, exactly opposite to what is expected. So meter, I find a meter in a poem very interesting, and usually I discuss meter in every poem I teach, because I have seen students, they do not talk about meter. And meter is, in a poem, meter is something very important. If we discuss meter repeatedly, then our students can learn it, and later on when they become teachers, they can pass it on to next generation. So rather than hiding meter, we should discuss it so that students can learn it. So iambic pentameter is the most common meter used in poetry, because iambic pentameter is the meter which is very close to common conversation meter. When we talk, we usually talk in iambic pentameter, consciously or unconsciously. Though strictly we do not follow iambic pentameter, but in poetry, small or bigger poems, there are many meters, but iambic pentameter is the most commonly used meter. What does it mean? It means that first syllable will be unstressed, then stressed, then unstressed, then stressed. Though it is a difficult art for the students of UG level, until and unless they learn phonetics and they know how to make a word accented, which word is accented and where accent is to be placed on a particular word. Uh, until and unless you learn that, it becomes very difficult for you to find out whether the meter is iambic pentameter or not. So death be not proud. If you look at this line, then death be not proud, though some have called thee. This is not a strict iambic pentameter because one syllable death, be is the other syllable. Not proud, next two syllables. For though some six have called eight and thee is nine. There should be 10 syllables in a line. Here we do not have 10 syllables in a line. I have transcribed in the next line in IPA symbols, but here are only 9 syllables. Mighty and dreadful, for thou art not so. Mighty, 2 syllables, and dread, 2 syllables, for full, 4, 6, thou art, 8, not so, 10. In this line there are 10 syllable and this is a perfect iambic pentameter line. Thou art slave to fate, chance, kings and desperate men. So if you look at this, then 2 and 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There are 12 syllables in this line. So John Donne is not particular about using iambic pentameter strictly in a poem. He gives a variation more than desired. So he does not follow the pattern of iambic pentameter continuously in a poem, and critics have disliked it very much. There is one critic, Dr. Samuel Johnson, a critic who analyzed Shakespeare thoroughly, and he also analyzed John Donne. And what he has said, it becomes very important to pronounce that here. Donne deserved hanging for not keeping the accents. डॉक्टर सैमुअल जॉनसन ने कहा है कि डन ने पोइट्री में मीटर को फॉलो नहीं किया, इस बात के लिए तो उसे फांसी दे देनी चाहिए थी. When you're writing poetry, it becomes very important for you to use continuously or to use repeatedly and in a regular pattern any meter that you begin with. You decide one meter for your poem and you should write in that meter. That is why Dr. Samuel Johnson says Donne deserved hanging for not keeping the accents. So death be not proud. If you look at, then everyone will say that this poem has been written in iambic pentameter, but there are so many variations. The whole text is in front of you. There are 14 lines. I have already discussed line number 1 where there are 9 syllables. In line number 2 there are 10 syllables. Then if you look at line number 4, then there is not iambic pentameter, rather trochee is here. Then 5, 6, 7 iambic pentameter has been used. Line number 8 again trochee has been used. Line number 9 there are 12 syllables. I have already discussed. In line number 11 there are 11 syllables. So no regular meter, no regular pattern or any one meter has been used. So there is a rough and rugged use of meter in this poem. Thank you very much.